recent press conference, Jen Psaki was asked a string of questions from conservative reporter Peter Doocy. And you should pay close attention to how he frames the questions here, because it goes along with this narrative regarding Joe Biden and how his lack of leadership has really led to this explosion in gas prices. Americans are really suffering, which I agree with. However, the causes for these prices do need to be addressed. Peter Doocy has it completely wrong, but I think Jen Psaki does a decent job slapping him down. Let's watch.
Would President Biden ever undo his executive order that stopped the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline?
Are you suggesting that would solve the gas prices issue?
Well, do you think that that would maybe affect prices faster than getting the whole country off of fossil fuels?
I actually don't think it would. The Keystone was not an oil field, it's a pipeline. Yeah. Also, the oil is continuing to flow in just through other means. So it actually would have nothing to do with the current supply imbalance.
So gas prices are approaching an all-time high per gallon. How high would they have to get before President Biden would say, I'm going to set aside my ambitious climate goals and just increase domestic oil production, get the producers to drill more here, and we can address the fossil fuel future later?
Well, again, Peter, the US produced more oil this past year than in President Trump's first year.
So she's right about that. And the fact that the oil companies have gotten all of these so-called journalists to repeat this line about the Keystone XL pipeline is infuriating, because what they're calling for here is the continuation of the construction of that pipeline, as if that would make a huge impact on counterbalancing the increase in gas prices. We're seeing an increase in gas prices, yes, because of this war, because of the Russian invasion into Ukraine, but more importantly, because we are reliant on oil-producing countries that have, of course, a financial motive here to manipulate gas prices by lowering production of energy. And then if you want to talk about energy dependency here in the United States, as Psaki says, we're already the top country in terms of producing oil and natural gas, but it is not nationalized. It is not something that the federal government has much control over, because it's privatized. It is owned by private corporations that seek to do what, Cenk? What do private corporations seek to do? Do they seek to do right by their consumers and customers by keeping gas prices low? Is that what they do?
No, Anna, they're actually legally obligated to maximize profit, and they do a spectacular job of it.
Yeah.
And so I want to add one more last thing here. Look, corporate executives are smart enough. They hire, they pay money into think tanks to create false experts that then go all over television and all over print papers, and no one ever explains that they've been bought by those corporate interests. Literally, their opinions have been purchased by, like for example, we did yesterday, Stephen Moore. He works at Freedom Works. That's paid for by Koch Industries. They're in the oil and gas business. So his opinions are purchased by Koch Industries, and no one ever clarifies that. So some people are smart, there's no question. They're manipulating things behind the scenes, and they're largely giant corporations. But the so-called reporters at the national level in this country, we just have to come to terms with they're painfully unintelligent. And it seems like, no, come on, they're on TV, they made it all the way there, there's got to be some substance, etc. Think about Doocy's question. So should we put aside the Biden's drive for renewable energies so that we can lower energy prices now? Wait, how would creating more energy, stopping the creation of more energy, help energy prices? It would hurt energy prices. Why would you randomly stop other sources of energy? What a weird, insane question to ask. But he's too stupid to even realize he's doing a corporate talking point. And he's just like, is it time to stop renewable energies so we can have more oil, so we can have lower prices? But why would that lead to lower oil prices? Do you have two brain cells in your head? Do they ever collide and form a thought? Or do they just feed you the corporate talking point, and like an absolute idiot, you go and embarrass yourself on national television? Do you think if we have less energy, we'll have lower prices? How? How would that work? Have you ever studied supply and demand ever in your life, you moron of morons?
Yeah, I mean, clearly not just the United States, but even the more liberal European Union is incredibly ill-prepared for the moment that we're experiencing right now because of the incredibly, like, I don't know, just like this aggressive and stubborn reliance on fossil fuels, right? We could have been better. We could have been further down the line in terms of having alternative renewable sources of energy to kind of offset what we're experiencing right now at the gas pump with rising energy prices and all of that. We're ill prepared. So but to your point about Doocy embarrassing himself, he embarrasses himself among people who know what's really going on, which, as I argued earlier in the show, which is a smaller group of people.
No, Anna, you're absolutely right. Like the rest of the press corps, unfortunately, not that much brighter than him. I don't care if they have prestigious New York Times or NPR behind their name. Hey, why doesn't somebody raise their hand and go, hey, schmuck? I mean, you could do it in the form of a question to Psaki, but and you don't have to call them names. Just point out, wait, if the country had listened to progressives earlier and we had we're now getting more of our energy from renewable energy, we would be less reliant on oil and gas, wouldn't we? Isn't that the most obvious thing in the world? Instead, they flipped the frame from, oh, now you see how we're hooked on oil and gas? That's why we should be more hooked on oil and gas.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's unbelievable. Like here at TYT, we're trying to snap people out of their brainwashing. It's not just QAnon people. Mainstream media brainwash you into the most insane things. And by the way, Democrats suck at their jobs. Yes, Psaki did a decent job of answering that particular question. Decent, barely. But look at how you could flip the framing. Right now, they could be super aggressive and every day in the press briefing say, if we switch to renewable energies, we wouldn't have any of these issues. We told you, Democrats told you, we should have switched to renewable energies 10 years ago, and then we wouldn't have any of these problems. But Republicans didn't listen. This is all the Republicans' fault. Look at the gas prices. The Republicans did that to you because they refused to switch to more sustainable energy that Democrats pushed for.
I mean,
such an easy win.
In fact, I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to point to the fact that Donald Trump, one of the first things that he did was implement higher tariffs for solar panels that were being imported into the United States. And look, the United States should be manufacturing its own solar power panels, let's be clear about that. But in terms of our dependence on having to import them because this country is so backwards in actually looking forward to the future and alternative ways of gaining energy, she didn't take advantage of that opportunity. It's like they're afraid. Like Republicans have been so good at bashing and battering the Green New Deal that Democrats just cower now when they get asked about it. And I'm talking about corporate Democrats, right? I'm sure that if AOC were in that room, if she were asked that question, she'd find a better way to answer it. But the Green New Deal is not a thing. The Green New Deal, we couldn't even get Biden's agenda passed, okay? The idea that we're experiencing what we're experiencing right now as a result of the Green New Deal is ridiculous considering it didn't pass, it didn't even come close to passing.
Yeah, last thing for me on this. Look, going all the way back to Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter had put solar panels on the White House to begin symbolically moving towards renewable energy because he saw that it was a national security issue for us to be hooked on oil and gas. Reagan came in, even though it helped in every way, there was no downside to it, including cost. He
ripped them off.
He tore down the solar panels at the White House because it was symbolic to say, we will stay hooked on oil as long as Republicans are in charge. We will not do anything smart under penalty of law. Now, Democrats could be pounding Republicans over that. Remember the idiot Reagan? Remember that moron who couldn't even remember his lines? And he made sure that we were hooked on oil. Remember the Republicans said, oh, get hooked on oil and gas. And now look at what Russia's done because of it. It's all the Republicans' fault. But yet, do you hear any of that on television? Do you hear any of that in print?
No.
See any of that in print? Do you see any Democrat ever fighting back? That clip we played for you in the beginning with Psaki, it was like a morsel of fight back. And we were like, oh, wow, that's amazing, right? But all these arguments that they could be making, they never ever make because they're Look, they also
they're corporate.
They take the corporate money.
Exactly.
They're in the same game.
Yep.
It's good cop, bad cop, and they're the good cops who are supposed to go, oh, golly gee, there's nothing we can do, right? I'm so tired of this game. And now, by the way, it's costing Ukrainians with their lives. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.